Good afternoon. My name is David Grothis. Today is March 28th of 2020. I wrote something I'd like to share with you today. Thousands of Americans have been directly killed by illegal aliens, not detained and not deported. Thousands of Americans have been killed directly by Muslims, not detained and not deported. Our president sends 20,000 troops to protect Saudi Arabia oil. Does that make sense to you? It doesn't to me. 3,000 mosques not closed down. 8 million Muslims not detained and not deported. 10 million illegal aliens not detained, not deported. 100,000 National Guardsmen getting paid with your tax dollars, $25,000 a year, doing absolutely nothing. 100,000 Army men on bases throughout the United States getting paid $25,000 to $30,000 a year with your tax money, doing absolutely nothing. 50,000 Marines getting paid with your tax money, $25,000 to $30,000 per year, doing absolutely nothing. 100,000 police officers getting paid $35,000 to $50,000 per year, doing absolutely nothing regarding illegal aliens being detained and deported. 50,000 sheriff deputies getting paid $30,000 to $40,000 per year with your tax money, doing absolutely nothing regarding illegal aliens or Muslims not detained and not deported. The president, representatives, senators, governors, police officers, sheriff deputies, army personnel, Marines, all take an oath to defend the nation from foreign invasion and domestic enemies and to uphold the rule of law and the Constitution. Tell me this, are each of them violating their oaths to defend the nation from foreign invasion when there's 8 million illegal aliens that have not been detained and not deported? Are they violating their oaths to defend the nation from foreign invasion from Muslims? 8 million Muslims not detained, not deported? When government employees like senators, representatives, sheriff deputies, police officers, and governors who do not honor their oath of office, do you know what that's called? Dereliction of their sworn legal duty. Did you get that? Dereliction of their sworn legal duty. There's a problem in the community with an invasion of foreign enemies, and they're not being detained and they're not being deported. In a court of law, probable cause exists to identify every illegal alien as a foreign invader. 60,000 Americans have been directly killed by illegal aliens, not detained and not deported. 3,500 Americans have been directly killed by Muslims, not detained and not deported. Number one, oath violation. Oath violation is 5 years in prison. Number two, dereliction of their sworn legal duty is a violation, 5 years in prison. Committing an act of sedition by any person is a crime. Committing an act of treason by any American citizen is a crime with a death sentence. Committing an act of insurrection is a crime. Violating statute 1324, which is aiding and abetting illegal aliens and harboring illegal aliens, is a violation of statute 1324. Tell me this, when is every government employee going to be investigated for these particular crimes? Would George Washington or Abraham Lincoln put up with so many acts of insurrection? Every week that goes by is another week of indifference to the rule of law, indifference to equal justice under the law, and indifference to the Constitution. More Americans are being directly killed by illegal aliens on a month-to-month basis, and more Americans are being directly killed by Muslims on a day-to-day basis throughout the United States that are not detained and not deported. Are you tired, angry, and infuriated as I am of reading in the newspaper another drunk illegal alien killed an American citizen? I've had 3 or 4 of my neighbors killed by drunk illegal aliens. Are you tired and angry, infuriated as I am of reading the newspaper about a stupid Muslim killing American citizens? Well, guess what? Last week, some stupid Muslim killed 3 American women and knifed the 4th woman. Can you believe that? A Muslim took out a knife and killed 3 American women in the state of Tennessee. That's just deplorable. That's an atrocity that must stop. It's time to reflect on what exactly Abraham Lincoln would do today if he were alive. It's time to reflect on what exactly George Washington would do today if he were alive. It's time to reflect on what exactly General Patton would do today if he were alive. There is no citizen who is above the law. That means the president, governors, police chiefs, representatives, and senators are not above the law. And if they're failing their legal duty to enforce known laws, they are guilty of dereliction of their sworn legal duty. American indifference to the rule of law must end. In order to end injustice in the United States today, every representative, senator, president, police officer, sheriff deputies, governors must be held personally accountable for every decision that they make. And if they're protecting illegal aliens or Muslims, they are guilty of treason against the rule of law, against the Constitution, and against every American citizen. I call it treason. Nothing less than treason. A lot of Americans will not even be here next year. You know why? Because our government leaders aren't being held accountable. And there are more acts of violence perpetrated by illegal aliens and Muslims against Americans. I'm praying that these acts of violence stop. I'm praying that these Muslims get detained and deported. I'm praying for Americans to rise up and have police officers arrested for not detaining illegal aliens like tomorrow. Ask your local police chief if he's having every police officer detain illegal aliens in his community. And if the answer is no, then the police chief needs to be arrested for insurrection of federal law, violating his oath of office, not protecting the Constitution and not protecting the citizens in his community. A lot of people in government, senators, representatives, governors, and even the president need to be investigated, removed, indicted, and prosecuted. Make a phone call to Attorney General Barr back in Washington, D.C. and ask him several questions. Why aren't the sanctuary governors of Colorado, California, and New York not indicted like 2 years ago for violating statute 1324 and violating the oaths of office? I've had 3 or 4 of my neighbors killed by drunk illegal aliens in the last 6 to 8 months. I want it to stop. It's time for Americans to rise up and confront insurrectionists and every government employee who's derelict in their sworn legal duty. I'm talking about any citizen 18 years of age to 65 that's able-bodied man can join a militia like tomorrow. There's nothing stopping American citizens from starting militias to put down all this insurrection. Do you love your wives? Do you love your community? Do you love the Constitution? Do you love the American flag? Why are you putting up with so much crime by your government employees? I am not an insurrectionist. I believe in the Constitution, I believe in the rule of law, and I hate seeing American citizens killed because of indifference to the rule of law, indifference to equal justice under the law, and indifference to the Constitution, and people just thinking they create up rules without honoring their oaths of office, without honoring the Constitution. I, for one, David Grothus, prefer to have more birthdays, more anniversaries, more vacations, more paychecks rather than going to funerals or hearing about people dying from these stupid Muslims and these stupid illegal aliens. Share this speech with your neighbors, your friends, your local police chief, your local governor, your representative and senator, and ask them some honest questions. How can 8 million Muslims still remain in the United States after 9/11 occurred, after Fort Hood occurred, after San Bernardino occurred, after Florida occurred? Hundreds of Americans killed by Muslims, and not one single mosque is shut down. Not one imam is prosecuted. What are you thinking about back in Washington, D.C. today? Ask that question. What are they thinking about? They're not thinking about the rule of law. They're not thinking about the Constitution. They're not thinking about protecting American citizens from those that have invaded their communities. The governor of Colorado is guilty, the governor of California is guilty, and the governor of New York is guilty like 2 years ago. And the attorney general does nothing. The district attorneys in each state do nothing. They're all complicit with the evil that's taking place. The rule of law must be enforced, and Americans must rise up and talk to your local police chief, talk to your governor, and ask them if they're not enforcing the rule of law, statute 1324, and the Constitution as it's written, they're violating their oaths of office. So get to work, Americans. Wake up. It's time to wake up and smell the roses. Wake up. Get to work, Americans. Good night. Goodbye.